Hi everyone, welcome back to Music Chat with Wendy and Barb. We're going to be talking about one of our newer favorite hymns in the Lutheran Church called All Are Welcome, and it's by a living, breathing composer named Marty Haugen. And Barbara has put together a little research on Marty, and I do know that if you were raised Lutheran, if you've been associated with the Lutheran Church the last few years, you certainly probably know his name. Because he's had extensive works and written many hymns for us. And so, Barbara, what did you find out about Marty?
Well, I will just say, because he is alive, I'm going to be very careful about what I say about him, because you can easily go to his Facebook page or whatever and find out, a lot about him. And he probably already is familiar to a lot of our congregation, because his music is throughout our services many times. He's a contemporary of myself. I won't tell you what year he was born, but we are about a couple of years apart.
Okay, fair enough.
And he was born in Minnesota and grew up in the Lutheran Church. He was the teenage organist at the church, so he really did have his foundation in the Lutheran Church and playing the organ. He went to Luther College and started out as a piano major there, and then he decided that he really wanted to be in the ministry in some way, so he changed his major to psychology, and thinking that he would go in the seminary. But when he finished college, he wasn't quite sure how to proceed. He didn't really want to be a church musician. In fact, he said, I knew I didn't want to do that, because all that they do is play the organ and lead the hymns. And he really wanted more of a ministry, but he wasn't quite sure which way to go. He had signed up, now this is in the 70s, right? So he had signed up for the Peace Corps to go to I think it was not South Africa, but Africa. And that was probably his ambition, to serve and to be doing some good and so forth. But he got out of it because he fell in love. And the girl that he fell in love with eventually became his wife.
Very good.
And he just didn't want to leave, I don't think. So he thought, well, let me, just kind of take a job for a year and see if I can figure out what I'm going to do. And he was offered a job in the Catholic Church. And he happened, now remember, this was in the 70s, and things were kind of changing a bit in the Catholic Church. It was oh goodness, I can't find it here, the Vatican.
No, Vatican II.
Yes,
Yeah.
the Vatican II summit and so forth. And so it was the 70s after the 60s, which was kind of like a volatile time, the Vietnamese War, all that stuff. So there were a lot of changes in the Catholic Church. And the person he was talking to that was going to hire him said, he said to them, I really don't know that much about the Catholic Church. And he said, well, nobody does right now, so you're going to be in good company. And I think that eventually that gave him an opportunity to work in the folk mass kind of a genre,
Right.
And change the music up. He was impressed with the fact that the Psalms were sung, and so he wrote a lot of call and response kind of music, and accessible music for the Catholic Church. He didn't stay there very long. He eventually went on to do other things, but I think that opportunity arose because of the fact that the Catholic Church was just very different at that time,
I'm not sure. I think I might have seen where he was there for 15 years.
Oh, was he really? Oh, maybe.
Yeah, so
okay.
I'll have to check that fact for you.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't have that in my notes, but I guess that's very possible. One thing I did, first of all, let me just say that this information I got from a interview that he had with the publication, it's Reformed Worship, Resources for Planning and Leading Worship. And this was a really nice interview that he had with the writer, telling about, his process of writing music and where he came from and so forth. And one quote that I will say, when he was starting in the Catholic Church, he said that I think the Spirit moves through questions and discussions and struggles like that. And so he felt that the Spirit was moving through the Catholic Church for change, and that through these struggles, oftentimes many wonderful changes occur. So that was kind of cool. And the other thing that I really got from this interview is his role, as he sees it, as a music leader and the minister. Those roles within the service. He really is not one who feels like the minister should be the king of the service or the music leader should be the king or queen of the service.
Right.
They are leaders who try to lift the spirit in the congregation and invite them to join. And that's why so much of his music is call and response. We do that evening prayer.
Holden evening service.
Yes, the Holden evening service. And I know I've been the cantor in that many times, and it is one of those things where it's not a solo situation. It's just leading the congregation into singing the responses. And I think that's why it's so endearing to everyone, because it is so accessible.
Right, and he definitely has more of a folk approach to writing, which is to many a great relief from how we traditionally think of the church music as being presented. A lot of guitar, sort of feel in his music. It's an easygoing kind of music. It's easy to sing. It's harmonies are very easy to follow, I think, and so I think he's very endearing, and I know in the Lutheran Church, but he's very, he's very famous across.
He is in Protestant churches.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah,
and it's one of those things where his melodies will stay with you, and you can easily remember them and sing them. One thing I really liked again about this interview was he was talking about, a couple of things. He was talking about his process. The interviewer asked him about his process for writing.
Okay.
Now, we just finished our process for writing Everyday Amazing Grace, and we talked about that. And it was really interesting to me because he said he started out as a musician in composition, starting with the music. And then he realized through the Lutheran tradition, the words are vital. And so if he started with the music, then he was kind of contorting the words to fit with the music. So he learned that the words are paramount. That's what comes first, and the music lifts the words and is able to bring them to the singer. So that was kind of cool, because we talked about that.
I think so. It's been fun as we've been exploring the last few weeks, just different teams of writers have written together, just how they see the process, or and sometimes the process is just luck.
Yeah.
Something gets either musically written or lyrically written, and then the two are merged by luck sometimes, I think.
I think so.
It can go either way, but I sure think there's definitely a strong case to be built with just what he said.
Yeah.
That the text really does dictate where the music needs to go.
And he said, first began to approach composition from the standpoint of the music, and he realized it was a distortion of the role of music in worship. See, that's a real critical point. The Lutheran Church taught me how important it was for the music to support the word.
There you go.
And he's a very much, and I talked to you about being the worship leader, being the music leader. The practice of the whole congregation standing and singing is one of the legacies of the Protestant Reformation. However, now we realize that interactive singing creates a dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And in our song, we are inviting each other into the vulnerability of following Christ. It makes us more of a united front when there is that dialogue, the call, that response.
Well, and I think that imitates the relationship that we strive to have with Christ.
Right.
Christ isn't over there just watching us,
right.
and we're not over here just talking about ourselves. So it should be a dialogue.
It's reachable. It's accessible.
It's the model for prayer, really.
Yeah.
That it's a dialogue.
Uh-huh.
Right.
And one other thing I want to mention about this little thing, because this is dear to my heart. He sees everyone in the congregation as worship leaders, which is what I've been talking about. And the minister calls for a response, the music leaders call for a response, and all these voices in interaction make us aware of Christ's Spirit among us.
Nice.
This is really important. It's a collaboration, a symphony. You can call attention to your solo, but then the whole piece suffers.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a big thing with me, because I always feel that whatever musical offering we have in the church service is a musical offering. It is not a performance. We perform, that's what we're doing, but it is not a performance for the individual. It is part of the symphony. It's part of the offering to the service. And I believe that's, and I'll just say it, I believe that's why I'm more traditional in some of the music choices, because I feel like it is not an entertainment venue. It is a time to lift us up a little bit from where we are.
Right.
And so that's a big thing with me.
It's an important distinction to make, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, turning to the hymn itself that we're focusing on today, All Are Welcome, we were requested to do this by our Pastor Cox at Grace Lutheran, and he chose this hymn to be the opening hymn for a service that was started about a year and a half ago. It's called the Adaptive Service at Grace Lutheran. It's our second service that takes place in the mornings, on Sunday mornings. And it is a service that was conceived with the intent of being a very welcoming service for anyone out there who has any kind of difficulty at all with the what we would call a traditional hour to hour and a half long church service that we typically think of as happening on Sunday morning. It could he had in mind people with disabilities, or problems with mobility, or attention deficit, or just anything. Someone who maybe has vision disability. That we could create a service that was very easy to get to and very easy to get through is the kind of the phrase that we sort of came up to describe what we were trying to do. And so he thought this song really encapsulated the ideas of being extremely welcoming to all. And so we had a committee that met, and we talked about these ideas for the service, and almost from the get-go he was saying that he wanted this song to be the first thing that happens at that service, just to put everybody at ease. And so we've been doing that service now for about a year and a half, and of course now it's online.
I miss those
during
people
the
so
pandemic.
much.
I know we haven't seen those folks for a while, but we have a nice group of people that come regularly to that service now, and are just a very important part of the life of our congregation at Grace.
Yeah, I do miss them a lot.
So anyway,
you want to say something about the Bible verse or the this?
let me think.
There was something that you wrote over there that you were going
Well, what I was going to say is, there's 5 verses
Oh, yeah.
that Marty wrote for this hymn, and we are going to play at the end of the chat here. This was just sung about
today.
today.
It
Yeah,
was
we're
sung today.
recording this on Sunday.
Yeah.
What's our date today?
The 28th.
Okay, we're recording on the 28th of June here, which is Sunday morning, and we just had that hymn. By the time you're viewing this, we'll be moving on to next Sunday. But because we just recorded it for the Sunday service today with Barbara and Pastor Jeff singing it, we're going to let that recording be what you hear at the end of the chat today to serve as our performance for all are welcome. But I don't recall which verses we had, but we always sing the first verse,
I think
and
it was
then
1
we
and
pick one
5.
of the other
I think it was 1 and
verses,
5.
1 and 5 maybe.
Yeah.
But we're going to let Pastor Cox, when he edits the video, he'll put all 5 verses on there.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to read you, Marty wrote this in 1989, and he said of writing this and talking about the text and where all these welcoming verses came from. He says, Jesus ate with prostitutes, Pharisees, tax collectors, and sinners. I don't remember him refusing anyone, and that's the spirit in which I wrote it. So, he just really was trying to just let it be what it is, a very welcoming song for everyone out there, no matter what their background is, what their religious affiliation might be,
Right.
or
Anything.
and they're welcome to take part in all of the parts of our service. They can be a part of communion, or they don't have to be. It's
Right.
whatever makes the individual feel comfortable. And so we've really enjoyed that. Putting that service together and giving it a life, and hopefully it'll be around for many years to come.
Definitely. And I really appreciate Marty because he fills a really great need in our worship.
I think it's hard to imagine Lutheran life over the last 30 years or so without him, his presence. He's got his fingerprints over on a lot of the developments of music in our services and things. So,
and his melodies and his songs are dear to a lot of people's
they
hearts.
really are. So, absolutely.
I really appreciate his philosophy about it, and I appreciate his music.
And so we'll see you next time on the next music chat. Please enjoy our performance here at the end, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Let us be